This is Ryan Orok from Christotantrism. Good morning, everyone. I hope you are feeling simply wonderful, beautiful, delightful, happy, excited, and positive in this time that's happening. And if you're not, I hope that you honestly, deeply, truly feel the emotions that are flowing through your body so that you can be able to receive the messages they're sending, release them, and return back to being happy, joyful, positive, excited, and moving forward. And this podcast, this message, this time, this meditation with me is based on helping you getting back to that place of happiness, relaxation, and joy. And the topic is forgiveness. I guess there are different ways to dress this up, but I just want to directly go into it and talk about what is forgiveness, because everyone talks about it. Jesus talks about it in the Lord's Prayer. Forgive us our debts as we forgive our debtors. Therapists and psychologists and healers tell us we should forgive, and books tell us to forgive and move on. And then we think things like, well, is that enabling people who have done bad things to us? How does this work? For me, forgiveness is nothing else but the simple process of removing blame from your life. In other words, forgiveness is the process of deciding that something should be different than it is. Or rather, blame is the process of knowing that something should be different than the way it was, and that because of that, you are hindered in some way. So, if my father had been more loving, I'd be more successful in business. If my mother had been more loving, I would have better relationships with the opposite sex. If the government's taxes weren't so high, I would do better financially. If the massive conspiracy wasn't happening, we'd all be happy. All of these ways are ways to be angry at, not accept, and deny the way things actually are right now. If that fool hadn't driven that way, then I would have gotten to work on time, right? So there's something in my life that is suboptimal, and if something had been different, then that wouldn't have happened. Does that make sense? And that is the foundation of blame, which we cannot blame without being victims. And people talk about, well, what about legitimate victims? Yes. To say I was abused or harmed and that affected me, and I had emotions and beliefs because of it, and I had pain and suffering that resulted is one thing, but to say, well, I can never have a positive relationship because of this person who harmed me, that is assuming a victim role. That is deciding your future based on your past, based on your action, based on something that you wanted to have different. So if God had given me more X, then I would be more successful. It's another subtle form of blame, right? Whoever we're blaming, men, women, money, sex, power, our parents, divinity, specific people, doesn't matter. As long as we have that concept and that idea in our head that something should be different, it was wrong the way it was, I'm not going to accept it the way it was, then we are stuck in blame, which gives us victimhood, in other words, justification for staying how we are, and prevents us from changing and moving forward because we have an excuse, we have proof, we have knowledge why things are the way they are, why we can't be successful, why we can't be happy, why we can't be rich, why we can't be whatever it is that we think we want to be. And so taking that and adding forgiveness to the equation changes things completely. Forgiveness doesn't mean that someone didn't do something that we didn't enjoy, wasn't pleasurable to us, didn't feel like it met our needs. These things happen, and they happen all the time. They happen with people who care about us deeply. They happen with people who are pursuing solely their own interests. And they will always happen. But forgiveness is the process of accepting it how it was, of saying, okay, someone did cut me off in traffic, or my mom didn't hug me as much as I wish she would have, or my father wasn't as supportive as I wished he might have been, or my last partner wasn't as passionate as I would have desired. And accepting that that is the way things were. And accepting the pain behind it. Okay, that wasn't fun. I didn't enjoy that. That didn't meet my needs. But no longer wishing or needing that thing to be different. All right? Forgiveness is letting go of the need for that thing to be different. In other words, once you accept it how it is, you lose the ability to blame your current status on that thing. Well, if the economy hadn't crashed, I wouldn't be in such a bad situation. Okay. If the economy crashed and you're in a bad situation, that is the situation. But if that's your focus on what happened to get you to this point, then you're living in the past, you're not accepting the present, and you're probably not taking the steps or doing the things that you need to do to actually shift and have changes in the present and in the future. And this is a basic but difficult teaching of all spirituality. So people ask, how do I forgive? I don't know how I forgive. I don't know how to forgive. What if I forgive and the other person doesn't change? Forgiving has very little to do with the other person. You may forgive someone and still choose not to interact with them anymore. Simply releasing them on their way and allowing them to continue behaving the way they're behaving. Your forgiveness doesn't have anything to do with that. As long as you need them to change or admit they were wrong or to do something different, then you're stuck in blame and you're not forgiving. So the forgiveness process doesn't have anything to do really with what actually happened, what they did, whether they're a good or bad person. It's what enables you to move on by dropping the blame and victimhood. And so the next question, how do you forgive? You forgive by forgiving. I spent several hours just saying, I forgive person X for thing Y. I forgive this woman for breaking up with me. I forgive this person for making this unkind remark toward me. I forgive this situation in the world for being the way it is. Just simply stating that, just simply stating forgiveness and bringing forgiveness into the world. You don't have to have any complex process about forgiveness. You just have to set the intent to let go of allowing the other person's behavior and actions to control and be responsible for your current situation, responses, results, and happiness. And simply speaking that can be a way to do it. I find usually you don't even need to involve the other person in it. Because again, involving them in the process of forgiveness, needing them to hear you or respond to you is again needing things to be different. Many people will never be able to hear you or respond to you. They will never understand what they did wrong, nor will they provide correction and restitution for it. And that's okay. They don't have to for you to forgive. For you to forgive, you just have to decide to forgive and accept things as they are, accept them as they are, and move on in action and responsibility in your life. So though it sounds like it can be a very complex process, and I do recommend you get in touch with the emotions that you have around the things that happened. Are you feeling rage, sadness, fear? Because these emotions are often the motivations to keep things as they are and not forgive. But once you feel them and release them, then go through the process of simply speaking forgiveness to all of these things that prevent you from being who you are, who you truly wish to be, doing what you want to do, and so on. And this is so important for releasing us and allowing us happiness and progress moving forward. Now, topic number 2, for those who have listened this long. How are we going to use erotic and sexual energy to change the world? My belief is the attack on the masculine and feminine, men and women, both their cooperation, their collaboration, their understanding of each other, and especially the power of the sexual and erotic that flows through the interaction between men and women, is doing so consciously as the ultimate war on the changes that might happen in our world to heal things. We will need to use all of these energies in a strong, empowered way in order to shift our world. In fact, the very energies that cause a child to be conceived and birthed can cause a new world to be conceived and birthed if we understand them and if we're able to use them in ways that are not selfish, arrogant, manipulative, etc. So what we're going to be doing is taking these energies, arousing them, harnessing them, and focusing them to the results that we wish to have in the world collectively, as a group, and then using the energy and the knowledge and the insight and the power that results from that, not from our intellect, not from our minds, not from our thinking, not from our analysis, and bringing that out into the world, acting in those ways and allowing the new world to rebirth through us. That is what I'm focusing on. That is how we're going to do it. That is going to be quite a challenge because we're not used to acting in this way with our energy. But this is a key way that Christotantrism is going to rebirth the world. And I will be talking about this soon. Thank you for listening. All my love.